The Cleveland Cavaliers win 3 out of the 4 quarters against the Brooklyn Nets, but end up losing the game. Charlotte, that was a total statement game from Atlanta and the Hawks. A very good performance. They are an extremely hot team coming into Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We have some injuries to talk about regarding John Collins for Atlanta. And we have some news we're going to check out right away that Jarrett Allen was a full participant today in practice. The date is April 14th. This is Cavs Encapsulated, the play-in edition. Let's get right into it. All right, boys, we're going to kind of work in reverse order from that intro, but I just want to start it off with Justin because he's the main man. He's the co-host, and then Logan, we're going to talk to him as well, of course. We haven't seen you in a week, but what's going to start with this tweet from Evan Dammerel. Cavs head coach J.B. Bickerstaff said that Jarrett Allen was a full participant, walked through today's. He was going up against coaches prior to this, and apparently he did a full walkthrough, like a full workout in Brooklyn, so Justin, how did you feel about the Nets game? We're going to start there. And what would Jarrett Allen's return mean for tomorrow?
Yeah, the Nets game was, that first quarter, obviously you made it apparent that, we won the 3 out of the 4, but when you let 40 points go without, at least scoring maybe 30, it's a huge deficit to make up. And, we didn't make those deficits big enough in the second, third, and fourth quarters. But, really showed that we could hang with those guys, got really close towards the end there. And I think getting Jarrett Allen back is obviously I saw a article or like a little headline saying that JA's, disappearance has like reaffirmed that he is the team's MVP. I don't know that he's the team's MVP, but I think he's definitely the defensive catalyst for this team. I think a lot of the rotations and a lot of the defensive minded plays that we have come from Ja, just knowing his position and knowing what he's got to do on the floor. So, and it goes offensively too. I mean, he's a big contributor to we just haven't seen a lot of lobs from Darius Garland to anyone, in a long time. So, he's been severely missed and, maybe more so than what a Darius Garland would be, or even an Evan Mobley at this point.
Logan, same question to you. How did you opening thoughts about the Brooklyn game and Jarrett Allen? Do you think he plays? I think that's the question on everyone's mind.
Gentlemen, play in basketball. God, I wish we weren't in this tournament. Just the pressure from the very beginning, right? With Jarrett Allen, I think, besides just Jarrett Allen, either him or Mobley out completely changes our dynamic defensively. Because Mobley and Allen are both good at helping out on the driver, and then usually the other one has their back on any lob threat, dump off pass, and the Nets got a plethora of those. So Jarrett Allen's impact it's more like you have two guys who play very similarly, maybe not offensively, but defensively. These guys are very much similar, and they're both great defenders. So when someone like Allen is out, a guy like Drummond's going to feast. A guy like here against Atlanta, Clint Capella might get 18 rebounds if Jarrett Allen isn't there to at least, take away some.
He had 14 or 15 the other night.
He's one of the best in the league. Jarrett Allen would mean a lot, would mean the world. And to me, this is it, right? If you lose, you're done.
Yep.
This is the game, and it's easier said than done. Injuries, everyone recovers at their own pace. You don't want to push it short. But it's a finger, right? And I know it's a pretty serious injury, but that's something that I think you can get over in the off season. But I'm not ready for the off season yet. I want to do another Cavs Encapsulated. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Jarrett Allen, just the impact. I think the fact that you're at home, the fact that crowd's going to be raring to go, and then if you get a guy like Jarrett Allen, you're going to need a lot because hot Atlanta is hot right now, and it's going to be tough. But yeah, fingers crossed. Does he play? I have no idea, Jeff.
Well, I'm glad you don't know, because I'm going to swing it back to you for the next intro to our topic, and then we'll go to Justin. But I didn't even know that John Collins was dealing with this injury. Haven't been really following Atlanta, kind of wrapped up with the Cavs stuff, kind of folding into the play-in tournament. But I watched a little bit of the game last night, and it seems like he is in the same spot as Jarrett Allen. It seems like he's been going through workouts no official word. And I would say both guys, as far as my knowledge, are 50-50 to play. I know Jared Allen, he might even be into 60-40, I would think, after a full practice today. But that's really the best case scenario because you want to get him a full practice. You want to see how he feels tomorrow before the game. And, I think that would be a big, boost for the morale. But Logan, we're going to talk about maybe what we saw in the Brooklyn game. And I want to start with your guy. And we're going back to Evan because he asked a lot of good questions today. Cavs head coach JB Bickerstaff said that it depends, in quotes, on whether or not the team will utilize Moses Brown tomorrow against the Atlanta Hawks. So JB's not giving, he's not giving any secrets away. He's not showing the cards. But I think that's a pertinent question to ask because if Capella and if John Collins plays, we're going to get destroyed on the defensive side, rebounding the basketball on some possessions, especially if Jared Allen can't play. So how do you feel about this, Logan? I know you love Moses Brown.
I really like Moses Brown. He's not a terrific player by any means. Like, don't get me wrong, he's got just about no touch around the rim. But when it comes to having a big body out there and more than anything, just a spark plug, just some energy, those are the kind of players I love. That's why I love a guy like Lamar Stevens. That's why when he first got here, and even in spurts, I love Jetty Osman. Even Rondo. I like that he brings energy. Now, when he has his bad games, it can really hinder our performance. Sure, I'll give you that. But Moses Brown, I feel like he's one of those guys that plays with a chip on his shoulder in a way. He understands that he's clinging to an NBA job in a way. And I think a couple of years ago, he thought he'd be, a regular on a lot of teams. He had a couple of good years with the Thunder. I think it was a couple of good years. But I've always liked Moses Brown. I think in a situation where you have a dominant big, you got to have Moses Brown out there. If you're playing a team, I can't think of one off like the direct top of my head, but anybody who's got a skilled tall guy or a guy that can just rebound like with the best of them, you got to have Moses Brown out there. I think you can get away with it against other teams. I thought against Brooklyn, I thought it showed JB's innate ability to not adjust mid-game. I mean, how many times do we see him go down the lane? Of course, listen, Durant's going to hit mid-range impossible shots. That's
Correct.
going to happen. You can put a hand up. He's going to drill it. It's going to piss you off, whatever. Kyrie can go for 23 points on 11-11 shooting like he started in that game. But the thing that pissed me off, and the thing that really got me upset, was these little drive and dumps. Andre Drummond, offensive rebound, lay in. It's just you can't afford to do that once again. You got to have some size. No, he's not really skilled per se. But he's got size, he's got energy, he runs the floor, he blocks shots. That's the kind of player you're going to need when you have a guy like Clint Capella, especially Trae Young. We talk about the Cavaliers love to lob their bigs. Trae Young does it with the best of them. Mm-hmm. And it's Clint Capella, it's John Collins. One more note I want to make, Jeffrey. I think I saw Lou Williams is out as well. And
okay.
Because guess what? He's a Cavalier killer. Mm-hmm. He's one of the all-timers of Cavalier killers.
I mean, we could take as much luck as we could get, honestly.
Exactly right. Just wanted to throw that little.
Yeah, I mean, you love to be like that guy. Like, oh yeah, we beat them at full strength, but I mean, we're kind of it's past the point there. Yeah. And when you're going for a playoff series, it's like I'm gonna get my 2 cents out there before we throw it over to Justin because I'm already sick of the. Okay, we didn't play good against Brooklyn. Fine, we can all agree upon that. But I go into the Twitter world, Twitter that's not real, and now we need to lose to Atlanta to make sure we get a better draft pick.
Shut up.
Listen, and nobody
such a Cleveland thing.
Thank you, because you don't know, like I think it's because of the rise of the Mickey Mouse ring. Let me try to connect these because you don't know. You could play Miami in the first round and you never know. Jimmy Butler could have a series-ending injury in the first quarter of the first game. Like, you're not in the playoffs, like, for granted, even though it seems like that in the NBA because, basically half the league makes it. But I just don't get this. We're like, let's get Darius Garland, even if it's 4 from 5 games. Let's get these people playoff experience. Mobley in his first year. Like, the play-in is not the playoffs. But going over to Justin, I mean, you've had some pretty good discourse this week about minutes, about JB. kind of what Logan was talking about, these in-game adjustments that just simply aren't made. I want to hear your thoughts specifically on Lamar Stevens. You know, you've been pretty adamant that he only got 7 minutes against Brooklyn, which was weird. It's a lot of matchup dependency. And then you see Isaac Okoro kind of take a backseat. I believe he only played in 13 or 14 minutes against Brooklyn. So I want to hear some of your thoughts on the minutes.
Yeah, the minute spread. See, it's interesting because I talked all year long about how a lot of guys should be getting, upwards to 10 minutes. You should have like 9, if you're lucky, 10 guys that get upwards to 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Maybe 9 guys upwards of 15 minutes, and then maybe 10 guys of 10 minutes. But it's you and I were having a conversation before Logan got on about like this is the game where you're just going to hand all your minutes to Darius Garland, Evan Mobley. You're going to ride your starters to the end because it's do or die time. And unfortunately, as like bad as like that could potentially be to a person's health, like you got to do it. You got to do it at this point. And Lamar Stevens is one of those guys where I think, I think he's high quality. I think the minutes he gets, he's really good. I don't see him do a lot wrong. Offensively, his game is unique because I don't expect him to do a lot offensively, but he still does. He still manages to find his way to the rim. He still manages to get his shots up, and, he surprises me on the offensive end. Now, the thing about Moses Brown is it's so interesting to think that you wouldn't just keep him, he was going for the last, 10 games, was, active, was a starter at some points. And now we're in this weird, strange area because if we get Jared Allen back, what is the lineup? What is the starting lineup? What are the rotations that come in from it? Do you go back to your 2 guards in the 3 7-footer starting lineup? Or now that you've ridden the 3 guards and 2 7-footers, what is the thought process with getting Jared Allen back? How's that going to work? Who's going to lose minutes? Who's going to gain minutes? Moses Brown, I think the part of that or that tweet is like, we don't know if we're going to utilize him because if Jared Allen's back,
right,
we're not going to utilize him. If he's back, if he's not back, then we are going to utilize Moses Brown. So to what capacity, we'll see. I think I agree with Logan about, Clint Capella could go and get 15 to 18 rebounds on us if we don't just you get 2 big bodies on him. But it's tough. Like we're in that situation now where do or die, but you have guys like Kevin Love and Chetty Osman who I feel like I would like to see the home and away stats for those 2 guys because I feel like their home stats are probably
great point. Way better.
Probably ridiculous. I feel like Chetty
shoot better at home.
Yeah, I feel like Chetty's a completely different person at home. He kind of feeds off that energy. So we'll see, man. I mean, who knows?
It's the NBA playoffs, though. And this is when people, if you have complaints about the NBA regular season, I totally understand your arguments because it really is like 2 professional sports wrapped into one season. The refereeing is tighter. The lineups are tighter. And that's where it's like, okay, this might be a bold statement, but monitor the Memphis series. Like, on the Western Conference, like if they struggle to not have their lineup dialed in because they have so many people who contribute, like that wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. Now, I think they're going to be a superior team in the first round, so I don't expect them to have too many troubles. But it's like you see the Nets, like you're going seven guys, 7 or 8 guys, and you're riding the hot hand and you're basing it off the moment. So I don't think JB has that experience yet, which is kind of what we have been discussing. Like I said, the refereeing is, it's way better, honestly, in the postseason, even in the play-in. But I want to put out a statement, and I want to hear agree or disagree, because I think Logan's going to disagree with me if I've read him correctly. If Allen is healthy, the starting 5 tomorrow is going to be Darius, LeVert, Lowry, Mobley, and Allen.
Okay, I think that could, and at the end of the day, probably should be the lineup. I don't want to fall in love with that lineup, though, for most of the game. Hawks are very quick on the wings. They are. They
got good 3-point shooters everywhere, too.
Yeah, this is not the matchup for Lowry to not catch up with his footsie. Like I said, Lowry can defend, some bigger guys very well. He moves his feet pretty well, but he's just not quick, plain and simple. Not that I want a Okoro starting. At the end of the day, I'd literally throw Lamar Stevens out there at the 3, but I know that will never happen.
Right.
To go with LeVert. Yeah, I just think in this matchup, this is not a good matchup for that 3 big lineup. It scares me a little bit.
It's a fair
I'd be
point.
fine to start that way, but again, I just don't want to ride it. So I guess I agree and disagree. I don't know what would be the correct answer.
I think this what Justin is talking about, though. Jared Allen solves a big need for you, but he also kind of creates an issue where you're probably going to have to start him. It's not like he's coming off the bench. So I get where Justin is coming from. Like, do you have Levert kind of like, I don't even know. Is Levert a 2 or is he a 3? Okoro is really kind of neither as well.
2 who can't shoot.
And it's like, you're not starting Jetty. Like, you could start Jetty at the 3, but like, our point of attack defense is going to be an issue because like Okoro hasn't worked on Trae Young. We've known this. We've known this since we've drafted Okoro. I'm literally like, he's averaged 27 points a game against the Cavaliers since 2021. We drafted Okoro in 20. I'm going to go to the games this year and we're going to see a trend, which is interesting. But Justin, I know that's probably like one of the best points. Like Allen gets slotted in. What do you do at the 3?
It really is screwy because if you go with what you've done, it's obvious that you'll go with the 3 big lineup because I don't think there's ever been a point in time where, any of those 3, when they're healthy, have ever come off the bench to, for any reason. So unfortunately, I think it would be probably, and this is, where I'll probably get a lot of flack. It'll probably be Garland, Okoro, Markkanen, Mobley, Allen, and Levert's like the first dude. You could see, like I feel like you could see
Levert and Love at the same time.
Maybe I could see Okoro like starting and very quickly coming out of the game, but like also just being super aggressive / like pesty towards Trae Young. Like you could see JB just tell him, be like, dude, like glue, just absolute glue on him. But you never know. I mean, it's just like I'm going off of the sense that you go with what's the most familiar, and that's why I have a hard time believing it's either going to be you go back to that starting lineup that was for a long time, Garland, Okoro, Markkanen, Mobley, Allen, or you go with what you've been going with for a while now, and you go Garland, Okoro, Levert, Mobley, Allen, but that just
bring Lowry off the bench.
But that just screws with the whole idea of like, all right, when's Kevin Love going to come in? When is Chetty going to come in? When are all these other guys going to come in? Opposed to we've seen when Levert comes in when he comes off the bench. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting depending on Allen coming back.
Dude, if I was the Cavaliers coach, I'm gonna say something that probably is stupid. In this particular game, in this particular matchup, I'm throwing Jetty Osman at the starting 3. And I'm telling him to just hound Trae Young.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Because I literally think his energy would be off the hook. The first play-in game. Now, obviously, he played in 2018, but didn't really play in those playoff games.
Right.
I think he's going to be jacked up, raring to go. And I think if they're like, just stick to Trae Young.
That's the issue with his role, though. His role as a bench player makes it difficult to do that because.
Right, and what happens to Markkanen is the other part of it.
Yes, it's really not the upfront decision. It's actually the secondary and tertiary consequences that happens for what you do first is the issue, which is what we're talking about. But think about it offensively. How much more open is the offense? Take Levert out of it. Even if Levert's in it, but think about Jetty at the 3, at the 3-point line, and Allen down low. Your offense is spaced extremely better that way. Levert and Okoro, we know, are not spacing the offense from the 3-point line, consistently. It's not like Atlanta and their head coach is going to say, okay, we're going to run Okoro and Levert off 3-point line. These discussions are not being had. Jetty Osman, Lowry Markkanen, you have to actually talk about that. And this is where in the playoffs, before I go over to stat news, because we're going to talk stat news, then we're going to get into predictions, and we're going to do good Juju prediction. But you see the Nets, you see these playoff teams where everybody has a specific role. I think we saw Charlotte fall prey to this yesterday. And this is where I'm going to give kudos. The only kudos I'm probably going to give for the Brooklyn game, believe it or not, is going to go to Kevin Love because veteran presence, scores 14 points, grabs 13 rebounds. That is his job. Score moderately, rebound average to pretty good. That was pretty good rebounding performance without Jared Allen in there. Obviously, Brooklyn, doesn't have a bunch of great bigs. Drummond's decent. Claxton played pretty good, etc. But you see a guy like Lowry. What is his job? His job is to make threes. What if he is not on? He has no role. He's liability. He doesn't play defense great. He doesn't play a playoff type level defense. He doesn't rebound the ball like a 7-footer. So that's an issue. He's not going to rebound, double digits. He's never going to give that to you. And not to knock on the guy, but that is why Chicago gave up on him, is his physicality. He doesn't have this playoff physical atmosphere to him as far as we've seen. So, I think that's one of your issues where, okay, Garland is to score and to not turn the ball over. He did one really great. He did one not so good. Okoro is to play defense. I don't see him playing any defense. Who's he guarding? He's not shutting down Kyrie. No one's shutting down Durant. Congratulations. Mobley, Mobley's kind of in the same role. Okay, he's really out there to rebound and play perimeter defense. Okay, Drummond, he's a vet. He knows what he's doing. But I don't know. There's just so many things going on. Logan, what do you think about the zone that we saw? And I think it kind of worked with Brooklyn because Kyrie doesn't have unlimited range. I don't think you could do this star zone with Mobley at the top because Trae Young's just going to shoot over it, 40 feet from the corners or from the elbow.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned it either in our group chat or maybe I was just with my friend. I thought we should have gone to a zone defense pretty quickly against Brooklyn. Against the Hawks,
That'll work.
I probably won't because, let's see. You do a box and one and have Jetty, Hound, Trae Young. Issue is the moment that pass gets to the paint, we're screwed because they will knock down threes left and right when that extra pass goes out. I do think, though, again, this is a game where you got to try out a lot of different things. And I think Justin mentioned earlier, he said, you got to kind of ride these guys till the wheels fall off. Yes, these guys have played an extraordinary amount of minutes. Garland, Mobley, no doubt about it. But I think if you asked Darius Garland, if you asked Evan Mobley, they'd say, play me till my legs fall off. I really do. I think that these guys really want it just that bad. And at this point, you've come this far. You've had such a successful season. And, pardon you as a competitor, I'm sure is going to be a little disappointed if you can't even, get a series. And I got to believe that these guys, will be raring to go. I don't know how I got from zone defense to that, but
it's a good point. Justin.
Jeff, I'm sending a tweet to our shared group message.
Okay.
Not good.
Sources confirm the Athletics report that Cavs big man Jared Allen will attempt to play tomorrow night against the Atlanta Hawks.
Come on.
Now he remains a game time decision.
Well, that's kind of a contradicting tweet, but whatever. I love recording it right now. Love it.
So that's huge news. And trying to bring it back to the topic of the rotations just really quickly, the reason why, just listening to everything that Logan had to say and everything that you had to say, Jeff, with Chetty and Kevin and all these other guys, the reason I believe that the three big man lineup works so well is because for some reason Lauri is just in a better position at the three than he is at the four, because at the four you're expecting him to do what a four would do and get rebounds and be the interior guy, where that's kind of what Evan Mobley's bread and butter is, and Jared Allen is just a benefactor of being the typical five that you have. But then you go and you look at guys coming off the bench, and you're looking all right, if Okoro's in the starting lineup, LeVert comes in for him, adds a scoring punch, and still adds a little bit of defense out there. You bring Chetty in for Lauri, you might lose a little bit there in terms of the height, and you bring Kevin in for Evan so that Evan can come out, get a little breather, and then come in for Jarrett. Now, obviously, you lose a little bit of defense with Kevin. Hopefully, you make that up with Chetty. But that lineup is now Garland, LeVert, Chetty, Love, and Allen. And that's still a very viable – those two guys, Chetty and Kevin, those are your three-point guys. They space the floor. I don't know. This is just huge stuff, though, in my opinion. That's why you might see.
Evan Devereaux obviously said this, And, I think Jeffrey was kind of mentioning like that tweet kind of contradicts itself. From Shams himself, he says Cavaliers All-Star Jared Allen will attempt to play in tournament versus Hawks on Friday. He has been listed questionable on injury report. Allen has been out since March 6th due to fractured finger. That's all. Doesn't say anything about it's a game time decision. From what I'm reading, and I'm really excited right now and just trying to get something out of it. He is literally saying right here he will attempt to play.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he has been listed as questionable on injury report makes it seem like that is a thing of the past. He's going to try to play.
Unless something, I just think, I think he might just remain to the game time decision because if it just, I don't know, if it snaps back in warmups or something, like they just keep it like that because you never know. But what half and half here will attempt to play makes me nervous that it's like, okay, are you going to start him? And then he's like 2 minutes into the game and he's like, I can't do this. Or like, is he going to get minutes? A lot of question marks here.
It's kind of like the watching with Garland's back at that.
Yeah, it really is. But I'm glad we did it during this time. I'm shocked this news is actually coming out. So let's pray and hope that Jared Allen is, ready to go. If he gives you 10 rebounds, if he gives you 8 rebounds and good rim protection, we don't need him to score 20. We really don't. Like we literally saw in the Brooklyn game, Okoro scores 0. We're in the game. I was thrilled that we didn't get blown out by 30 or 35. I will give the organization, the roster props. We fought back in that game. We've been doing it all year. So it's not like, I don't know. There's a lot of factors here, and I'm going to switch over before we give our one game prediction to the previous matchups. I think it's important. I've actually seen these two teams play, but what's the trend here? All right, here's the trend. Our win, they scored 95. Here are our losses: 121, 124, and 131. And again, to be a homer optimist, you don't score 130 in the playoffs. I mean, Brooklyn scored 115 or whatever, but it's like I tune into the game they play against Charlotte, and I see the Hawks players throwing their hands up. I'm not seeing the refs making Trae Young a foul merchant. I hope I'm not wrong by saying that, but I am not seeing him, getting these fraudulent flop, throw his hands up in the air calls in a play-in game, especially for a series. Okay, maybe it's Cavs Brooklyn, maybe it's more closer to a regular season, but this is it right here. This is the season for these teams. So I'm expecting it to be close to the vest. Make sure that the game, let them play as much as possible. And just one thing before whoever wants to jump in, I was at this game.
That was a great game.
121 to 118, you lose. We were 14 from 24 from the free throw line. We should have split with them at minimum this year. And, it's tough to beat a team 4 times in a row. I know it's a different beast. It's a different animal here. But any thoughts before we get into the solo prediction?
Oh, man. I think the magic number is going to be right around 110, 111. I think the Cavs got to score about that much and hope that this addition of Jared Allen can hold Atlanta as much as possible. But this is the thing I will say about this. It would feel wrong if the Cavaliers lost this game. The season they've had, the attention they've brought back to Cleveland, for it to end that way, that would suck. Atlanta, I don't think they deserve it. I think after being in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, okay, you know what? That's not even fair for me to say. I'll give you that much. They had a lot of injuries, sure, but they also played some pretty poor basketball early.
They did.
They got hot late, and I give them credit for that. But it just doesn't feel like it would be as sweet for them to make it. And of course, I'm speaking from a Cavaliers fan's perspective, of course.
Right.
This season would not feel right if the Cavaliers didn't have at least one series.
I think that's a valid point. I think that, I don't know, man. It's Atlanta, though. They kind of were like this last year. They played good basketball, hot
late,
at the end of the year and got into it. Justin, any thoughts? Or do you want to start us off?
I think it's just so apparent that, I just think of, all right, Trae Young's got to get, he's going to get somewhere near 30 in this game, right? And
you would think.
You would have to say, all right, well, it's going to be a Garland and a Trae Young show. But as much as I think that in my mind, my heart is telling me that with Jared Allen here, fingers crossed with the report, and we go back to a sense of normalcy with the lineups and the rotations, I feel like we could get back to our defensive,
right.
roots, and we could hold them to under 100 points and, hold some of their, better shooters to, something a little bit, south of 30% shooting or 30% shooting from the 3-point line. So, yeah, I'm really hoping Josh back is my biggest thing here.
Win the bench battle. I think you got to win the bench battle.
I mean, Chetty's got to finally return.
Yeah, Danilo Gallinari.
Somebody.
Danilo Gallinari.
I need revenge with the Chetty.
And free throws. For the love of God, free throws. Yeah, that's it. Free throws and bench. I think if you can win the matchups of the complementary players, Trent can score 40. If Garland gives you 28 and you win everything else, I think you're going to be, in good shape.
It does make me nervous because, like I said, I'm optimistic, and I was optimistic before the Allen news. It's even ramped up a little bit now, but I don't want to get into this false sense of, everything's going to be perfect, because I'd prefer it rather to not be.
You're from Cleveland, Jeffrey. We can't.
It's just like, I don't want to win a
We
perfect
can't do
game.
that.
I want to win the ugly game that it's like,
Yeah.
90s, like 95, 91, because we're listing all these different things. Win the bench battle, make your free throws. But I'm thinking you got to defensively rebound. You can't give up second chance points. And my headline for this game is just be competitive every quarter. Don't have a mental lapse in the first quarter like you saw against Brooklyn. In some of these games we played against Atlanta where it's the third quarter, and a lot of the times it's the third quarter where we're up or it's close at half, and then it's like, okay, we got outscored by 15 in the third. You just can't do that in the playoffs. You can't come back effectively from these big deficits, especially when you're playing these, everybody's clutch now. That's what I feel like people don't talk about. Kyrie Irving's clutch. Kevin Durant's clutch. Trae Young is going to be clutch is the hopes for Atlanta fans, but it's like everybody can make a big shot when they need to. It's easier to make big shots when you're up 6, up 9. It's harder to make shots when you're down 6, down 9. Right. But I'm going to get into it. We're at the 32-minute mark, 33-minute mark, and I'm going to go for the last prediction of the play-in, hopefully. And hopefully we get a playoff series, because I think we deserve it. Like Logan said, I think we need it. These young guys need it. We don't need the draft pick. Get that talk out of here. I'm going to say the Cavs win this game. I know that sounds cliche. Mm-hmm. I know that I don't know, man.
Can we get a score with it too?
Yeah, let's do
let's do it. All right, let's do the score. But every home team has won. Have they not? Brooklyn.
Love it.
I don't want to jinx it, but it's like home basketball matters. That's why I wanted to be the 7. I think we maybe beat Brooklyn for the 7, but I digress. Home basketball. The Rock is going to be rocking. Yep. Your boy will be there, so I'll be alive in the flesh, and I got a good feeling about it. Jay's come back. I think the momentum's on our side. I'm saying 106 to 104 Cavs.
I'm going to go with a Cavs win. I'm going to say 102 to 99.
Oh, geez.
Right under 100.
It's got to be tight, man. It's going to be a highly watched game. I'm just thinking like how the NBA would think.
Cavs by 30. No,
calm it down. Bring it back.
Imagine. I'd be like, this isn't even real if we won by like 30.
Know. Like we're going to the champion. Cavs win, and boy, I think all three of us could easily be wrong. Atlanta's gonna be tough.
It's true.
Yeah.
Final score 114-109. I'm going a big number offensively. I think we're gonna be jacked up, raring to go. But I also think Atlanta's not gonna be scoring much less than 110. So we're gonna have to have a good offensive outing.
Yeah.
Come out and really just play competent basketball, play clean basketball. Logan's been talking about this all year. Make sure you you got to control the ball, and you got to play your pace of basketball in the play-in, in the postseason, and you got to it's momentum. It really is momentum. Is JB going to call timeouts at the right time? Can we get the crowd into it early? That's the last thing we need. Is you see some of these games where Brooklyn's crowd was into it after the first quarter. You basically could write us off. I don't want to be like that, but it's really like recently with the Cavs, it's the first 5-6 minutes of basketball. I kind of know how the game's going to go. It's not always the case, but usually it's just like, all right, I'm getting this vibe, I'm getting that vibe right from the tip off. So if Jared Allen's doing the tip, I mean, that's a different energy right there, I think. We're going to sign off. It's Cavs Encapsulated, the play-in edition. This is going to go out shortly, going to get it uploaded. Going to give you guys 24 hours to watch it, digest it. Comment down below. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're hitting that like button. And make sure you're following us over on Twitter at Pulse Cleveland. We'll be documenting tomorrow's game.
Come on, Cavs, got to make it happen.
And I mean, I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm already nervous though. But cheer loud if you're down there. Make sure you're waving the rally towel, doing everything. Get together with your buddies. Have some fun tomorrow. Make sure it's sports. It's the plan. It's Cavs basketball, and it's back, baby. It's going to be fun. We're at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. But before we see you again, make sure you let them know.